they had some intel that suggested that there was going to be some action of a violent nature.
In his resignation statement, Wilson referred to that unknown threat. It was my hope to continue in police work, but the safety of other police officers and the community is of paramount importance to me.
We got to fight back!
Overnight, news of the resignation did little to quiet the smaller but still vocal group of protesters outside the Ferguson Police Department.
Yeah, very nice. And by the way, now, of course, Officer Wilson needs round-the-clock protection. He and his family have been threatened, so off-duty police officers have taken up that task. Joining us now is Andy McCarthy, former federal prosecutor and, of course, New York Times best-selling author of Faithless Execution, Building the Political Case for Obama's Impeachment, and columnist and senior fellow at the National Review. And your great piece, Andy, Progressive Mythography at National Review Online, telling all about why the case of Officer Wilson should never even have been brought before the grand jury.
Well, thanks very much, Steve. Really, in a normal case, it would not have been brought to the grand jury because the prosecutor usually makes a judgment call about a case, and those cases that you don't think you can win at trial, where the standard is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is higher than what the grand jury needs to find. If you don't think you can win a trial, you don't bring that case to the grand jury in the first place.
And so what you're saying, I mean, and you detail everything, very eloquently in the piece. But what you're saying basically is this was brought before a grand jury, as the prosecutor himself basically acknowledged, because he wanted to get all the evidence out there, he wanted everything on the record, and he wanted to show, the people that there was no case, or at least have a record of a grand jury deciding whether or not there was a case.
Yeah, and I think he also, look, he's a human being too. He knew that if he had made this decision on his own, the way prosecutors usually do, under circumstances where the evidence that is not publicly available information, it's usually, what we call law enforcement sensitive. That is, the cooperation of people with law enforcement doesn't get revealed to people unless there's a public trial. So the prosecutor probably did not want to be unilaterally on the hook for making this decision, which he knew would be very controversial. So by doing this grand jury, he really essentially dumped the decision in the lap of the community, because the community, the grand jury is the community's representative, as the framers intended in our Constitution and in most state constitutions, between the possibility of an overzealous prosecutor and an individual American citizen presumed innocent. That's what the grand jury's there for.
Andy, is political correctness or fear of inflaming a community ever supposed to enter into the criminal justice system? And I'm talking about whether or not to charge Michael Brown's stepfather, and things of that nature, where I'm hearing from legal people on TV, oh yes, there could be a case, but it's you don't want to do that. That would be outrageous. You don't want to inflame the community. I mean, maybe the better question is, how often does those kinds of considerations enter into the criminal justice system?
Well, there's two different situations, Steve, and they're really not symmetrical, so we have to take them one at a time. The decision to charge somebody when there's not enough evidence should never, ever be made, can never, ever be made properly, no matter what the external considerations are. All right, so let's just put that on the side. Then there's the second situation where you have evidence that somebody has committed a crime. You even believe you could probably get a conviction at trial, and the prosecutor chooses for a variety of different reasons not to bring the case. Either it's something that's not an enforcement imperative, or there seem to be higher or greater concerns than whether you get a guilty verdict on a particular person at trial. That's prosecutorial discretion, and that does happen. And I don't, frankly, if I were the prosecutor, I would certainly take into account what the impact of the prosecution would be on the community at this point in time. I'd also bear in mind the fact that most of these crimes have a statute of limitations that goes forward for a number of years. So if this isn't the best moment in time, particularly if the police were to come to me and say, look, this isn't about what's right and wrong, this is just about safety.
Right.
We can't protect this neighborhood, and now if you do this, it'll be like throwing oil in the fire. Then I think as a responsible prosecutor, I would say, well, look, if no one got killed because this guy incited a riot, and we can't tie any particular damage that was done to his incitement, I might let that go, not because I'm excusing the conduct, but for the greater good of trying to help the police maintain some good order.
All right, very, very interesting. You explained it to me in a way that makes a lot of sense and actually opens my mind. I didn't know that my mind could be opened anymore at this point in my life, but it actually opens my mind. Andy, always great to talk to you. Sorry, I'm sure we'll speak again before the holidays, but if not, Merry Christmas. But I hope we will, and thanks for being there.
I'll look forward to it, Steve, but Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and yours.
All right, thank you. Andy McCarthy, ladies and gentlemen. We're coming back. Don't go away.